Oh, hey everybody. Trailertrashtim, how y'all doing on this Saturday? Now, let me get a sip of coffee. You got your coffee? Go get your coffee and sit down with me. Let's have a chat. I don't know where you are in the world, but I'm down here, of course, as you know, in Alabama. It is a dreary Saturday morning. Man, it's chilly, it's rainy. It's just one of those days, you know. Not my favorite time of year, but hey, I just came out here into my little rolling studio and said let's have a little talk with the folks, see what's going on in the world, and there's quite a bit going on in the world. So I want to cover a little bit of it and give you my angle on a couple of things, if I can. Before I begin with what I want to talk about, a little programming note. I'm going to try and start a regular feature on Wednesdays, and we're going to call it Weird Wednesday. What is Weird Wednesday? We're going to deviate a little bit from the normal programming in terms of covering what's in the headlines, you know, as like we normally do. Weird Wednesday is just going to be a compilation of the weirdest things I can find that are in the news. I've already found so many things, and I finally said, man, this is a show. So I'm just going to have, I don't know, 4 or 5 things that I've saved up over the week that are in the news that just make you go, what on earth? And we're going to just compile that all into one show midweek. Weird Wednesday, the news of the weird. So stay tuned for that. We'll start that next week. All right, I want to start with this because I got to tell you, I watched a video 2 days ago, and folks, I got to tell you, I cannot more highly recommend that you carve out an hour and a half of your time, if you haven't already, but maybe you already have. And I know you can find this on X/Twitter. It's probably up on the YouTubes by now or elsewhere on the old interwebs. I really commend to you the interview that Tucker Carlson did this week, or at least he posted it this week, with Alex Jones. I highly recommend this video to you. Now, you may be, if you know who Alex Jones is, some of you may think, well, Alex Jones is just a crackpot. He's said some really far-out things in the past. I acknowledge that, but I want to tell you, this guy is a lot more. His track record indicates that he's right a whole heck of a lot more than he is wrong. And among other gems that were in this interview is, and I didn't know this, Tucker Carlson revealed that Alex Jones predicted the 9/11 attacks. September the 11th of 2001, he predicted them 2 months beforehand. He predicted who was going to be fingered for it, Osama bin Laden. He also predicted where the attacks were going to be, specifically to the towers in New York. It was uncanny. This guy's right about so much, and it's a wide-ranging interview, and it's at times it is chilling, but his accuracy is uncanny, and it won't leave you feeling hopeless. But I tell you, it'll jolt your nerves, and I just cannot recommend it more. And Tucker, for his part, said during and at the conclusion of the interview, I don't know of anything this man has said that I could disagree with. Incidentally, Tucker recently also did an interview, which has not yet posted, with Julian Assange, the man who is being held without charge in England at the request of the American government. This is a man Trump should have pardoned, but did not, as well as Snowden. But there's more details on that as well, and just a lot of eye-opening information. I do yourself a favor and go look that interview up. You can thank me later. It is well worth your time, believe me. All right, let's move on. Of course, I got to cover this. It's banner headlines everywhere, and it has to do with good old Hunter Biden, who has finally been indicted on multiple felony charges These are all basically with concerns or they include tax charges, which of course is how they got Al Capone. And that's how they're going after Hunter now with multiple. I think it's 7 felony indictments against Hunter Biden, and these are they're mostly tax charges. But I want to give a few of the little headlines with regard to each of these charges. This is mind-blowing to me. This is from the Fox website. From sex clubs to strippers, here are the 5 most salacious details of the Hunter Biden indictment. Listen to this, folks. This will blow your mind. This guy is a human train wreck. Number 1, Hunter Biden allegedly spent a total of $872,000 on various women and adult entertainment. Now, I don't even know how that's possible, but that's what this says. Over $800,000 on various women and adult entertainment. Number 2, Hunter Biden allegedly failed to identify payments to a stripper and escort as personal expenses rather than business. Number 3, Hunter Biden allegedly claimed money paid to sexual and romantic partners were wages to reduce his tax burden. Did this guy have any other hobbies? This is unbelievable to me. Number 4, Hunter Biden allegedly falsely claimed stripper and sex club payments were business expenses. This is one horny little devil, isn't he? I don't know what a sex club is. I never heard of that. But evidently he was in one because he paid for it. Where did he get the money, Daddy? Maybe the big guy knows. Number 5, Hunter Biden allegedly spent thousands on his business line of credit at a strip club. Hunter, you couldn't just go get a job like normal people do, buddy? So he has been indicted on all these charges. He's also been called before Congress. Let me get a little sip of coffee. Join me, will you? Me and Mrs. Folgers are just like this. Now, he's got all these charges, and of course, a lot of these are related to the IRS, which is like a default position. This is often where you get in trouble. If the government can't pin a charge on you for this, they'll look into the tax situation and get you there. Now, all of this, in my view, ladies and gentlemen, is moot. Why? Because of Hunter Biden's father. There are legitimate charges to be made against Hunter Biden. I have zero doubt of that. But at the end of the day, the big guy, I predict, is just going to pardon his son from whatever happens to him. That's what I predict is going to happen. Now, of course, I don't care. If he's broken the law, he should be charged, period. We don't have any control over what the president does or does not do. But I predict that Hunter will probably be convicted. He's already been convicted on a gun charge, as we know. I think that they're probably going to get him on tax-related charges. That's my prediction. But ultimately, he'll get a pardon from his father, the big guy, and he'll skate. He'll go free. He's not going to do any jail time. Don't worry about that. If there's any Biden fans listening to me right now, both of you, no worries. Hunter's going to skate. He'll never do a day in jail. It's never going to happen. All right, let me move on. Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, has offered an amendment in the Senate, and his amendment has to do with pulling out U.S. troops from Syria. This is from his website, Dr. Paul's website. Today, as a continuation of his efforts to return war powers to Congress, which is where they originate, constitutionally speaking, and in the American military presence in Syria, which needlessly puts our troops' lives in danger and risks further escalation of conflict in the Middle East, U.S. Senator Rand Paul will force the U.S. Senate to vote on his War Powers resolution. His resolution directs the President to remove all U.S. armed forces from hostilities in and affecting Syria within 30 days of its enactment. Dr. Paul's resolution is currently co-sponsored by U.S. Senators Mike Lee of Utah and J.D. Vance of Ohio. Dr. Paul says, quote, "Keeping 900 U.S. troops in Syria does nothing to advance American security. Rather, our intervention puts those service members at grave risk by providing an enticing target for Iranian-backed militias. Our continued presence risks the United States getting dragged into yet another regional war in the Middle East without debate or a vote by the people's representatives in Congress. Congress must cease abdicating its constitutional war powers to the executive branch." End of quote. He is exactly right. He is constitutionally right. War powers exist in the Congress. Acts of war must be voted on according to the Constitution, which of course so few people in Congress give a damn about anymore, but Dr. Paul does. They must originate not within the executive branch, but in Congress. And Dr. Paul's resolution simply directs the President to call home the 900 United States troops, military troops from Syria, and bring them back home. Now, this resolution has already been voted on this morning, Saturday, as I make this video. It was defeated overwhelmingly, 84-13. 84-13. That's a little depressing, don't you think? Rand Paul's resolution simply calls on the President to follow the Constitution and calls on the Senate and the House, of course, to follow the Constitution. It was overwhelmingly defeated, 84-13. Now, I don't have the breakdown yet of who voted how. I'm going to find it. But this is a little discouraging, to say the least, that only 13 members of the Senate joined with Dr. Paul. So we know that Mike Lee voted with Dr. Paul, as did J.D. Vance, two good guys in the Senate. But overwhelmingly, it was rejected by the Senate. Now, I wouldn't be surprised by the vast majority of Republicans in the Senate to oppose Dr. Paul. That's par for the course. Of course, not seeing the breakdown, as I said, I don't know who voted how. But this is the point I want to make about this. Do you remember, ladies and gentlemen, when the Democratic Party was famously known as the anti-war party? Do you remember, true or false regardless, but do you remember when, generally speaking, Democrats were opposed to war? You remember the 60s when they marched and had riots opposing war? You remember that? The home of the anti-war movement was in the Democratic Party. Whatever happened? I don't know who opposed Dr. Paul, but it was a lot of Democrats. I know this much. If all the Democrats in the Senate had agreed with Dr. Paul and voted with him, this thing would have passed overwhelmingly. Why? Because the Democrats control the Senate. Where were you on this vote, Bernie Sanders? I don't know. Where were you, Kirsten Sinema? Where were all of you Democrats in the Senate? Chucky Schumer? Where were you? If you guys had joined hands with Dr. Paul, joined forces with him, we'd be bringing our troops home right now from Syria. But they don't care. They're as much lovers of war as the neocons are. These people are useless. Utterly useless. All right, let me move on. That's really discouraging, I got to say. We've got no business being in Syria. We got no business being in all these foreign theaters of war. We're not there. We didn't send them there with any actions from the House where such things must constitutionally originate. You know, the president just says, boom, we're sending troops here, we're sending them there. He doesn't have the authority to do that, ladies and gentlemen. But he does it anyway. And why wouldn't he? Because the Senate's going to agree with it. They're not going to oppose him. They're just going to say, yeah, go right ahead. No problem. We know we're supposed to be doing these things, but you go right ahead, Joe. It's just discouraging, I have to tell you. I had somebody make a comment to me that about electric vehicles and the woke and, well, the Democrats' love of or hatred of the internal combustion energy and oil and gas. They want us all to go to EVs. They love electric power so much. And somebody said, I'll tell you what, let's make a compromise. Build a border wall, Joe Biden, and make it an electric fence. I love it. Works for me. Works for me. All right, that's really all I got on my mind right now. I had something else I wanted to talk about, and now I've drawn a blank. I guess I failed to make a note of it anyway. Rainy, chilly, dreary Saturday. Let's have a sip of coffee. That's what's going on this Saturday. What is it, December the 8th, I guess? Hey, man, it's almost time for Christmas, right? Or maybe it's the 9th. I think it's December 9th. Everybody go out there and have a great Saturday. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Thanks for popping in and visiting with me today. I appreciate it, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye.